give us a question and answer, a little video presentation. So take it away, guys.
All right, well, yeah, thank you for having us. My name's Clint Christensen. I'm the owner of Roof Boss. And so a little bit, so the way this program will work, or this little presentation will work, it'll be about 30, 45 minutes, depending on how many questions might going out. So David here, he'll give the product information, kind of go through all the slides of what we found in our findings during our inspections last month. And I will just give a brief little tutorial or description of us, I should say. So, Roof Boss. A little about us. Founded in 1991. So this is me up here in the far right there, and my brother. That's how we started. I started from the ground up, picking up the grounds. As you can see, I'm filthy dirty. So I started as a roofer, and so I know that every part of this industry, probably from the ground up, probably better than most anybody in this industry. So I pride myself on craftsmanship as opposed to just selling you guys a bunch of stuff you guys don't need. So here to describe and educate this whole process to you, so you guys can make your decision based off of that. So, and it comes from just my background of all of our work. So, founded in 1991. I'm local here to Burien and Des Moines. Actually went to Foster High School in Tukwila. And so, just been around the area since my whole life. And so, as far as our company, I have five regular full-time roofing crews. We don't use any subcontractors, and so that's a big part of the roofing industry these days. Is people use subcontractors a lot, but all our guys are in the house, and they've been with us from our foreman at least the minimum of 14 years up to 24 years. So all our guys are been with us for a long time, and so with that, we pay all their insurance, we pay their sick leave, or vacation pay, excuse me. They have bonus programs. They're all insured while they're here through the Department of Labor and Industries, along with our company. We're licensed, bonded, and insured. So that's another big important thing to have. Why you hire or consider a roofing company, you want to make sure that you don't use subcontractors. So we've done thousands of roofs in the area since 1991, so it's 34 years in business. And we specialize in multifamily projects just like this. So we're not new to the game of doing full big projects like this. And so we specialize in this as well. Okay, so the roof restoration project, we did our full inspections over, as you guys know, we're knocking on doors, going in attics, all that stuff. And I recognize a few faces here. And so this is where David will kind of take over on this as far as to describe how the project will work and what our findings were and who, what, and why we're here and why you guys are having the issues that you guys are having. So I'll turn it over to David, and then at the end of this, we'll have the question and answer that we'll both be able to answer the questions of what you guys may need answers to. So that was the first part of it. Out of practice, I haven't done this in a while, so I kind of stumbled a little bit, but believe me, I can answer any question when it gets to the technical part of the roofing. So here's David.
All right, guys. So again, thank you guys for having us out today. It's been a lot of fun actually putting this together. It's been a while since I've done a project like this, just personally. Just a little background about me. Again, just like Clint, I've been in this industry for over 30 years. My degree is in general construction. I've owned a few companies in my life. I've worked for companies and realized I like working for somebody versus actually trying to run my own company anymore. But when we were contacted by the board here, it was mainly just to do a full assessment and mainly looking at full restoration of all the roofs, but also finding out why is this happening. After 14 years old, these shingles have deteriorated pretty drastically, and this is actually just pulling off building number 2 of a 14-year-old shingle. This should not look quite this bad, and there are reasons why this is actually occurring, and I'm going to go through this situation and what's going on. And I broke this down into basically 3 simple sections for everybody to look at, and 1 is going to be attic inspections, 2 will be the rooftop inspections, 3rd would be ventilation. All 3 of these correlate to each other of the current situation that's happening in everybody's attics. So when we look at different attic installations, you can see the rafters in here, the organic growth that's inside the attic spaces, also in the insulation. Now, not everybody has a full knowledge base or the terminology of roofing, so I want to basically give a quick breakdown just so people were on the same terminology page of what's going on. When we talk about a roof, the best way to describe this is going to be as the roof comes down to the gutter edge. This is what we call a eave edge, where the gutter sits. The rake edge goes up on the angles like this, and there are metals that go up in this angle. You have the very top of the roof pitched like this, we call it the ridge. And then you also have like a mountain, a hip, and a valley. The valley is the low point, the hip is the outside part like this. The homes in here have very minimal hip aspects to them and very minimal valleys, but there are those places around this whole place. Ridge tops, and then on top of that, you're gonna hear about bird blocks, ventilation, cool air intake, as well as hot air exhaust. Those are very important for the manufacturers to have balances, and I'll explain how that all works to you guys shortly. Also, you're gonna hear organic or microbial growth. I am not a certified mold expert, so I cannot call it the M word. You may call it M and then with a D. That is for your own discretion to say, but you'll be hearing me call it microbial or organic growth here today. I will tell you some of the things you are going to see here may be a little disturbing just based off what you're seeing, but it's not to hurt anybody. It's just letting you know the current situation that we're all living in at the moment. Rooftop inspections again. Ridge vent. This is a ridge. We also call it a ridge vent, is where the hot air exhausts out. This is the intake vents that some of these rooftops have, which are cool air intake vents. As you can see, they're clogged, and then you have these ridge vents, which currently what you have is called a Cora vent. It is a plastic style ridge vent where the hot air comes out and exhausts out. We'll be using a different type of that, and I'll explain how the benefits of those will work for you guys in a few minutes, okay? So attic inspections, the first general assessments of what we found, microbial growth in the majority of these attics. They're just there on plywood, rafters, even insulation, and these are happening due to several conditions. We have missing or loose dryer vents or bathroom fan vents that are not hooked up correctly. We also have insulation that is not under the current, is way under the current code. This was built in, what year was this neighborhood built? 82. So the R value for insulation today is now an R49. So when this was installed, it was probably an R19. So it's almost double the amount of what it was when this was built. Also, we have lack of sealed interior penetration points. Just our living into the home, we produce moisture, heat. We have penetration points just like in these can lights and ceiling fans. Those are all areas that air can escape up into the attic, which also can affect these areas. Other thing that we ran into was just lack of improper ventilation, and that was the intake, the cool air intake. And again, I'll describe that to you guys shortly. Now, looking at some of this stuff, what you want to see is these are just from various attic places. You have organic growth growing on the backside of these plywood. We have other units that have had mold remediations already done, and you can see these are in these gray because they've been painted over. The microbial growth is already growing back on top of that plywood that's already been painted over. That is a Band-Aid that is put on there. Most mold remediation experts will not want to, they will remove that plywood or they'll do something to treat it versus painting over it. All it does is mask the problem. Other areas, again, you can see where you have microbial growth just growing all over this plywood in different units, and I don't have an answer on whose is whose, okay? But when we also look at different places, you're gonna see insulation should be either white or pink. You can see it's more of a dark gray or a blackish color. We're also gonna see the dryer vents are not hooked up properly, and they're kind of creating like a cavern effect with stalagmites growing down from this. So these are some of the things that are causing these issues inside the attic. Other things that I did notice are some folks have had their fans upgraded over time. The electricians, whoever put those together, did not actually put these in correctly. These should be inside the fan box. Talking to an electrician right there, he knows that's a code hazard. That is a fire hazard, okay? So just seeing how this does, but now that you guys are seeing all this, you have to ask your question, how does it make you feel to see this is what your attics look like? And how do we correct this for you guys in the future? Now the rooftop inspections took a little bit less time because didn't have to go into every attic. Getting up on the roofs was much easier, but we did find significant moss growth and debris just currently growing on pretty much everybody's roofs. The ones in the center here don't have quite as much because they don't have the shade coverage as some of these other units do. But delamination, degranulation, we also have scarring on the shingles, After 14 years, these are 25 to 30-year shingles. So in 14 years, we've all, and half the lifespan is already off of these. We have cracked fan vents, safety anchor installation issues, ridge vent issues where the hot air is supposed to exhaust. And I'll be able to show you how this all works by just showing you these pictures in here. If I can get this to move. Come on. Okay. Here we go. So we see these pictures where the shingles are missing. That is delamination of the shingles, where the bond of the two married together at the factory have come apart. We have this right here, this crack. A lot of these plastic fan vents around the entire neighborhood are all cracked just like this. So every time it rains, moisture has a chance to seep into there, leaks onto the plywood, which can also cause the issues that are happening inside this attic. When you look at, oops, on the far right over there, that is the safety anchor that are put on top of the roof. Permanent safety anchors are supposed to be underneath the ridge vents and secured underneath the shingles. These are temporary safety anchors that were just installed with screws put on top of the roof. So again, it was just an improper installation. And then when else you see how the shingle is curled, this is me just taking it up and lifting it. The picture to the left of it is what it looks like when it was sitting down. So every time the wind blows hard enough, it's lifting that up and causing that crease. These bottom pictures you're noticing, you can see where this looks like it's just the granules are gone, like a bomb hit it. What is happening, this is occurring just due to improper ventilation. The manufacturers want to have a balanced system, and we talk about balanced. They need to have current cool intake coming in should equal the amount of hot air to exhaust. And currently right now we have more exhaust than intake, and that is the one no-no that they say. It should be equal, or you can have more intake than exhaust. So what I'm proposing to do with this is correct all of these buildings, and I'll show you how to do that here very shortly. Okay? Ventilation assessments. Again, insufficient intake, what we're just talking about, to the exhaust system, plus on top of that, rooftop installation errors of the ridge vent. Last thing is going to be, the intake errors being that they're clogged, and then the rooftops. And I'll show you that here in a second. This is underlayment that goes under the shingles. When the installers had put this on, this is not every roof, but there's a lot of them have it like this, where they ran over top of it. So now that ridge vent is actually inoperable because the hot air is not able to exhaust. All they did was just put a couple cuts in there to hope that was going to solve the problem. These are also intake vents. These 3-hole intake vents. These are called bird blocks. This is how the air gets in. What they recommend is one of these holes, and I'm going to give a little terminology here, what we call net free air. One of these holes brings in 2.5 inches of free air to this ridge vent, and 1 foot is 12 inches of net free air exhaust. So already in 1 foot, this is less than this exhaust. So it already doesn't calculate correctly. What we plan on doing with this is adding full screen intake vents like this. Average building will have about 43 of these per building. These will allow 46 inches of net free air to come in. And I'll explain this in just a few minutes, but I wanted you to see the terminology of what we're talking about. But these bird blocks, how they're working is they don't let enough air in. The other thing that you see on the bottom here, these are also those intake vents, which basically are this right here. And this cover here, this mesh, is what's stopping the air from coming in because the organic debris has stuck and grown to this fabric. So it's not letting any fresh air come in and help cool the attics and help push that hot air out. Make sense to everybody? Okay. So, are we going to correct the attic issues? Well, this is a 3-stage process of how we have to do all of this. The first thing that has to be done really to start from scratch. We have to remove all the insulation. We get down to the base, we have a clean canvas, we can start our work up from there. The mold remediation is basically a spray that is going to go on all the plywood, on the backside of all plywood, all the rafters, all the sidewalls, anywhere that there is microbial growth can stick to will be sprayed. When it's actually, it will kill the area and also sanitize the area at the same time, and that's why they're able to offer a 10-year warranty that comes through with this. We're gonna seal all the penetration points with a expandable foam. Anything where there's a ceiling fan, a bathroom vent, any penetration that's even through, even where a wall comes up to drywall, they will seal it with an expandable foam to stop any type of air penetrations inside the attic. We'll install baffling. Baffling is what we put where the insulation will stop. It will stop the insulation from covering the air intake vents, so it actually promotes the airflow into the attic. Once on top of that's done, then we can install the R49, which is current code of insulation. Around the attic accesses, whoever has them in their particular units, we'll be putting what's called batted insulation, which is solid insulation, so that stuff doesn't fall down in. Anybody's home that I went into those attics, you all had a little bit of insulation around small spots that it had to pick up because stuff would just fall in. So we do this to be preventative, to allow that to stop that from happening, and it also just gives a much cleaner installation when it's all done. Okay. This also is going to come with a 5-year warranty on the labor of the installation. Plus, we're also going to provide a 2-year of attic inspections that we are going to do. And one, we're going to make sure that we cover the inside, and we're covering our bases by making sure the corrections we have done is working the way we are calculating this to be done. So after we're done with our work, the next 2 years, we're going to be knocking on doors and saying we need to get up in your attic just to verify everything looks good. So this actually is the mold remediation, and I will tell you folks, I did not believe it until I actually saw this occurring. My initial assessment on this was to replace all of the plywood. And after I had met with a mold specialist, my ideas changed on how we're going to prevent this for you guys. I want you to see what this does and how it's sprayed on and what it actually does to organic growth. Almost immediately, you're going to see the results happening where it melts away that organic growth and it sanitizes it at the same time. So just that little bit with a pump sprayer in the product that they use, it really is going to make a big difference. And the nice part about this is by not replacing all the plywood, this is going to save about $350,000 in plywood costs. So we're still going to have plywood to replace, so we know that, but we have that allocated for each individual building. But where it really came to present for me was seeing how this really worked. This was an attic that we had this person do this mold remediation do for us. The left-hand picture is showing what it looked like before it was sprayed. The middle picture is showing what it looked like after it was sprayed. It was almost back to brand new. And then again, you can see where it was sprayed and where they had stopped and how that's going to make a big difference in actually fixing the problems that we currently have inside these attic spaces. To talk about baffling a little bit, this goes just a little bit more information. This is how that baffling will be going across every rafter bay, so it promotes the airflow.
What's that?
Those have been going off like that for
Very
weeks.
sensitive.
I've been hearing those go off like for weeks. We got them out walking the dog, they go off, then they quit right away. They go off and they quit right away.
Oh, you don't replace the battery.
I don't know.
Well, is it?
If they just replace the battery, are they not the ones in here?
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Please continue.
That's okay. So this will be the expandable foam that goes in all those penetration points. It's very important to be able to stop any type of air moisture from our bodies or just living in our homes, even penetrating through the attic spaces.
Kinda like that. They'll do it a couple times and then they won't go off for a few more hours, but just saying.
It's good. But on top of that, you see
Next door.
this bottom right picture here, this is one of those intake vents that's gonna also help promote that airflow coming through. There are different styles they make of these. We are gonna use one that actually does have a finer screen to this, so it doesn't allow bugs or insects to get inside the attic as well. Okay? All right, how do we fix the roof issues? Well, first thing we have to do is we're gonna leave everything on top and we'll just put everything over top. That way you guys have to deal with the same problems.
Good one. Good one.
No. We will remove all the roofing materials. We want to make sure we get down to the bare bones. That way we can inspect any plywood for any issues that are going through here. Each building, we have approximately 5 to 15 sheets depending on size of building. Buildings 10, 18, 20, and 22 are going to have up to 64 sheets replaced. I think 10 and 18 are going to be the least amount, but those are some of them have already had the mold remediation done to those. If they've already been painted, we have to remove that plywood in order to be able to spray, because even the mold remediation specialist, even if we replaced all the plywood, he would still have to spray the bottom side of that plywood to make sure that all that microbial growth is killed. So that's the only way to do this. This is why we're able to save money by not having to replace it, because he's already gonna kill it. All right, so now talking about the edge metals. Each metal by code, each roof will have what's called an edge metal, a starter metal. This is the very edge, and your gutter goes right below it like this. So what this allows is that water will drip into the gutter, not going behind it. There are buildings, if you look behind every building's gutters, if you take a look at them, you'll see some brown stains behind the gutter at the bottom of the fascia board. That's a telltale sign that water has leaked behind the gutter, and that has to do with just variable reasons, but this will also help allow that to stop that water and allow it to get inside the gutter. The rake edge metals go up on the angles like this, and this also helps protect any water that comes down, helps this little kick out on the very end, helps actually push that water off the very edge of it so it doesn't just roll down onto the wood. Dedicated starter shingles and other details. So, at the bottom, years ago, 3-tab roofing was the way it was, and a roof was a roof and a roof. It was felt paper, and the 3-tab shingle was flipped upside down. That was the starter shingle. The same shingle was used as the field shingle, which is what's on this roof currently, a 3-tab shingle. And then they would take the same shingle and cut it into thirds and put that over top of the cap. Now the manufacturers have realized that there has to be a system involved in making sure that these systems work in place, just like a car. If you change the muffler and put it, or lowered your car after brand new and took it to the manufacturer, they're gonna void your warranty. That's exactly what they've done. They've realized that if you do it their way, it doesn't void their warranty. So a dedicated starter shingle is applied for 2 reasons. One, it gives a starter shingle with a tab, with a tar strip, that allows the shingle to bond and gives 130-mile-an-hour wind rating. The second thing that goes down will be an ice and water shield. Ice and water shield, the best way I can describe it is if anybody's familiar with Marvel comic Wolverine. Wolverine has a special healing ability. He gets stabbed, he gets shot, heals himself. Ice and water shield is basically the same thing. When the nail penetrates through this, it isolates itself and heals right around that nail. So this will be in any penetration spots. There's chimneys, the bathroom vents, the pipe boots where the air exhausts out when you flush the toilet. Anything that has a penetration point, this will be going in those areas to double check and double proof, I guess is what I'm looking for. What's the word I'm looking for? Well, just gotta make it nice and tight. So, now the shingle we use Owens Corning duration. One thing about this product I appreciate the most is what's called this little sure nail strip. It's a nailing strip. It is designed to basically give the nails going through the shingles extra strength so it doesn't blow through the shingle. So there's less blow through that can happen. Consumer Reports has literally rated this the #1 consumer product to buy for shingles 7 years in a row. There's a reason for it, just because of, and mainly is because of this, and they have one of the best warranties in the industry. So, secondly is going to be the pipe boots. They're currently already lead on the buildings currently. We'll be replacing those, and they will be made in lead again, but they will also have a cap that goes over top of them, and they will also be painted to match whatever colors you guys choose, black or brown. The metal fan vents is it as well. The fan vents that go on there will all be made out of metal. The B vents where the chimneys go, those will also be replaced, the flashing kits, and will be painted the same colors that you guys choose, either black or brown. And then a continuous baffled ridge vent. I showed you earlier what you guys folks currently have, which is this. This is called a continuously baffled ridge vent. Anybody familiar with, anybody engineer in this room? Anybody work for Boeing? So what this uses is called the Bernoulli principle. It uses airlift. This little wing right here, as air travels over it, it creates a lift and it creates a vortex to suck air out. So it does not matter where the air is blowing, which direction. This works on both sides. If the air is going this way or this way, it will create a vortex to draw that air out. So by adding this and those intake vents, now we can balance the system. And I've done the calculations, so the intake is always going to be a little bit greater than the exhaust. So I always know that we have more intake coming in, pushing that hot air out of the attics to keep the homes cooler, and it's going to help save with the roofing shingles as well. We get to the top of the shingles, there's also what's called a dedicated ridge cap. It's designed from the manufacturer to go on top, but it's actually designed to be bent. Shingles technically are not designed to be bent. They've designed this with a little bit of SBS rubber, so it actually does have some flexibility to sit on top of this and be bent. Okay? So after we install the shingles, this will also come with a 5-year maintenance program. We will come out once a year, we're gonna blow off the roof, clean out the gutters, we'll do a full inspection of there, and this also comes with a 10-year labor warranty through roof loss. So this is just some project we just wrapped up more recently of a large condo project. So you can kind of see, these are the metal pipe, metal fan vents. These are those metal lead pipe boots that are painted with the caps on top of it. You can also see the baffled ridge vent. And then if you see on this very bottom corner right there, that is the safety anchor. It is on both sides, it's underneath, and it's secured to the roof trusses with screws to make sure that it is never gonna pull off. So 4 people can hold on to be on one, or 2 people can be on one clip at a time, correct?
In fall arrest, or fall restraint. Fall arrest, it's 1 per.
Okay, so as long as nobody falls, we're good. But we'll make sure we're gonna have these strategically placed on every roof. Some of them, some of the larger units are gonna have 7 or 8 of these on it, so we have enough safety anchors supplied for anybody that goes up on the roof. Okay, ventilation. We've already talked about this a little bit, but
Can you back up?
Go ahead.
I wanna just touch on something.
yeah, sure. Maybe.
So the other important thing too is that
Oh, sorry.
because the other really important thing is every single attic space is gonna have numbered with the unit. And everything will be documented inside of the attic. And so we'll have this, you guys will have record of that it was done and completed. That here is more important in a sense than getting the shingles on straight. Because this here, these types of things are the reason why you guys are having your big problem. So getting that done and addressed and documented is key. And so every single unit will have that done. And in our inspections, we'll document it every single year, just to make sure everything's done. Because if you have somebody else climbing your attic, knock one of those things off, and all of a sudden now we're back to ground, starting over again. We have all that hot air going into that attic space. So this is a really big part of what we do in the attention to detail. So I just didn't wanna,
No, thank
skip over that. So
No, I
that's-
appreciate that.
That's part of it.
And one last thing too is, if you look at this one here, the flexible ducting is for the fans. The hard ducting is for the dryer vents. That still will also be wrapped with insulation. And on top of that, the fan vents, they also have an adapter to them. We'll be using zip ties and duct tape to take all that through it, so we make sure that these things stay intact and stop what's been currently happening.
And screws.
And screws, yes. Okay, so how we fix the ventilation? We talked about the full screen rafter vents. On an average, like I said, 43 of these full screens will be installed on every single building. Some of them actually are gonna be getting over 60. Depends on the size of each individual units. The baffling in the attics to facilitate that airflow into the attic space. We'll also implement that continuously baffled ridge vent system to make sure that we get the proper airflow out of each attic. We'll also introduce hip venting in some of these homes. Some of the tops of these have a little bit of what we call a dog ear, where it comes down. It's only about 10 feet long. But I'm gonna add a hip vent, which is basically this, on those areas, which is gonna add additional air to exhaust out, which will again balance the system a little bit more. And then also the roof to wall venting, where there are first floor areas. Some of them, when you walk in your front doors, there's just a door, but then you have a bathroom right next to it and there's a roof coming down. We will also be adding a roof to wall vent, which will be cutting out areas. We're gonna be cutting out some areas, and this will give you an example of what we did on a condominium project we did more recently. We cut about 2 inches on the sides, and that allows for the air to be able to escape out. We can actually install this vent on top of it, and then we put a flashing on top of that. That makes it watertight, and then on those lower sections, we can also still help with air ventilation for those as well. So when it's all said and done, like this picture and this picture are the same, just with a finished product. The gutters. A lot of the gutter system does have just outdated systems. The hangers are spaced really far apart. So if you look at some of your gutters, they look like they're smiling and frowning at you. If they're smiling, that means that's a low spot and that's where water stays. The more the water stays in there, the more debris falls in there, the more mosquitoes like to grow, and everything else can happen as well. So we're gonna remove, dispose of all the gutters, leaving all the downspouts and elbows. We'll install new seamless K-style gutters. They will be using hidden hanger systems that are spaced no more than 24 inches apart. That's basically every single rafter will have a hanger. That way, these basically you can do pull-ups on if you really choose to, but we'll also seal them with a gutter sealant called GeoSeal. It's pretty much the best system I've ever used in the gutter industry. Any missing elbows or downspouts, there are some locations that are elbows missing here and there, or downspout is damaged. We find those are also going to be replaced as a case-by-case scenario. And then if you like, you can add gutter guards to the systems. If you do that, it will fully protect the system and stop debris from getting in, which will also help in maintenance, just annual maintenance of the gutters overall. By adding that just takes the labor warranty on install of gutters from 1 year to 5 years. So just that little extra help can help you guys out in the long run. Okay, we're stuck again. All right, here we go. All right, so what does Hudson Ridge get out of this? What are the benefits that you guys get as homeowners? Well, first thing is we as a company will register all the warranties through the manufacturer with a 50-year defect warranty. I want to say this with a grain of salt. The manufacturers put together a 50-year defect warranty does not mean the shingles will last for 50 years. They're saying because we're using the components that they've put together to give this system to give it this stamp of approval, that it should have 0 defects in that 50 years. But the average lifespan of a roof is still 25 to 30 years. That's still going to be across the board. Roof Boss will also give a 10-year labor warranty on all of our workmanship that we do throughout here, on top of doing provide the documentation, as well as doing that 5-year inspections that we do. Mold remediation will be a 10-year warranty on the mold remediation. The insulation will also come with a 5-year warranty. Okay, we're stuck again. The clean ag spaces. This will now be free of microbial growth. It's going to be better for health benefits for everybody across the board.
Can you explain mold remediation, please?
How do you mean?
What is it? Does that mean you will go and unmold it?
Correct. That will be the spray that gets put onto the back of all the rafters, plywood, any space that has microbial growth in the attic is going to be sprayed. And that will clean, sanitize, or kill and sanitize all the organic growth.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So all the attic fans, dryer vents will all be insulated, secured to the system like we were talking about. It's in zip ties and duct tape, but also with screws into those to make sure that they stay intact. The current code requirements for insulation would be up to speed, proper air attic sealing that helps make each home more energy efficient, which does help with the rising energy costs that we're all feeling at the moment. And then the attic ventilation is going to improve the airflow, inhibiting microbial growth, helps improve the lifespan, and it's also going to keep the manufacturer's defect warranty intact by having a balanced ventilated system. Last piece will be documented pictures of each roof and attic space, just like Clint was mentioning earlier, is that we will have documentation for every single building. You'll all have access to these things, or the board will have access to all this information. So everything has been documented, so you guys can keep track of everything in-house versus keeping it with the management company or however you guys decide to do it. Man, if I can get to move again. Okay, just a couple disclosures, just so you guys are aware of. Obviously, I've put this together as best I could, but there's obviously a few things that we just cannot control. So we do allocate up to 5 hours of labor per building for incidentals that may be found, like rotted fascia board, broken rafter, or anything like that we could find as we're doing our demolition. Siding work is not included in this. If we do run into any siding work, we can do it, but we'll find that on a case-by-case scenario. For the most part, We shouldn't be touching really any of the siding, but again, we just wanna make sure that this is disclosed to everybody. We do anticipate that we should be able to do this in a year, depending on our scheduling, within 12 months of starting, but the only thing we cannot guarantee are sales tax increases or material price increases. So if that does occur, we will provide documentation. Our sales tax can, every quarter they can increase. Usually the manufacturers do about 2 price increases annually now, but they do average between 8 to 10% every time they do a price increase now. But we will give you any documentation when that does occur. The city of Des Moines does require permits for every single thing. If you folks even want to change your faucet out, you're supposed to pull a permit. So we cannot give a final cost on that until we know the final cost of each individual project. Once we have that, then we can get each individual permitting cost for each individual building. Last thing would be loading the materials from the supplier as well as for us. This will be a group effort from everybody. Meaning is that we'll need notices that are going out to the buildings that are the supplies going to be dropped off for, so we can have cars moved out of the way, so they can come in and use the machines to be able to load it up onto the roof versus us having to do it manually, because that's going to cost more money to be able to do it that direction. Most importantly is that we can use cones to block those areas off, and on top of that, we want to make sure we give care to the landscape, because we're going to have to try and put our dump trucks as close to the buildings as possible. We use layers of plywood to drive up on these areas to support the weight of that, so it's not going to damage the ground and have more landscape and cost incurring for you guys as well. That's probably the most important thing, is trying to we want to leave this place as better than we found it, and the only way we can do that is to make sure that we all work together to make this a seamless piece for everybody, okay? Okay. So, before I open this up to Q&A, again, just want to thank you guys for giving us opportunity, one, to disturb your lives, go in the attic spaces, climbing around the attics and doing a bunch of crazy stuff here for you guys. But it really does, getting access to each location was imperative to really give an assessment of what is currently going on, and then getting on the rooftop then helped me also do that as well. And then once I did my full evaluations, counting all the intake and exhaust systems and balancing them out, none of your systems are balanced. There's way more exhaust than there is cool air intake, and that is probably, in my professional opinion, where most of these issues are actually occurring. With the degranulation, delamination of the shingles, the microbial growth inside the attic, but I believe this is mainly the biggest culprit of your problems, okay? So, being in this industry as long as I have, I want to let you know we are committed to making sure we get this job done right for you guys, and we want to, and because we're so local, you can find us. You'll be able to find us. We're not far off from here. So we do appreciate the opportunity to serve you guys, and we could open up for questions and answers.
What's the ballpark estimate for this project?
That is up to Mr. That's for the board. I was asked this evening just to go over findings, not to go over pricing. That'll be for the board, and you guys will discuss without us.
I do have a question.
Where are you heading with this?
Well, again, I'm just doing what I was asked to do. The board can discuss that with you guys without us here, because this is a community decision and a board decision, not a roof boss decision.
And there's more than just roof boss.
Correct.
So for them to disclose a bid, then you don't know the others. Also, if you wanted to, the gable vents, right, those are getting blocked off to prevent the cross draft.
Yes, sir. I did not mention that. Yes, sir.
So you said 12 months, does that mean you wouldn't be able to start for a year, or it's gonna take you a year from start to finish?
It'll probably take a year to start to finish, and the reason why is not just for us, but also for you guys. And we disrupting the whole neighborhood. We don't want to do every single building right, in sequential order, because we want to focus on the ones that need them the most, and then we can continue to work our way through it. But I figured a 12-month time period also gives you guys the opportunity to get all your ducks in a row to be able to get this all paid for at the same time.
And then also, to your point, is that we don't have subcontractors, so we're not gonna, win this project and all of a sudden, okay, great, we're gonna get this done in 30 days and go down and start hiring guys to come in, and then the quality of work that I've worked for 34 years to establish, we're not gonna blow that up on this. So we could do, we could bring all 5 crews here for 2 weeks, we can get half of this thing done in like 3 weeks, right? But we also have other customers.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it will help us and it will benefit you guys, depending on the financial situation. I have no idea what that is. And so we could space it out in increments. So that's probably the biggest reason why we could do it over a year, we could do it over 6 months. I mean, if there was a time issue, we could accommodate that, but we will not go out and hire guys to do this project, period. That's probably the most important.
You had a question?
Actually, I have 3 questions, so I'll ask one first and then we'll go around. The spray where the mold was, where do people live when you're doing that? Like, where does that stuff land and?
That's a great question. So they actually do put plastic down, because all the stuff is in there, kind of eats it away. But they do put plastic down in areas to be able to stop any type of that stuff from sinking down into the plywood or the drywall and stuff like this. But the mold remediation special would actually be the better one to answer that question, and I will get an answer for that. Can you write that down for me real quick, Billy?
Especially with people with pets.
And
Correct.
And-
No, but it is not
and-
invasive.
and
It's
people
not.
with
It's
asthma.
not. It's low VOC. From what he tells me, it's the product is. He said it's the gold standard when it comes into mold remediation. So it's going to be a low VOC. It's not going to. People don't have to leave the premise because of the being toxic fumes or anything else like that happening. And it literally is just in a pump sprayer that they sprayed on there. And to my knowledge, there shouldn't be any major issues. But they'll do anything they can to make sure they're keeping everything protected. That I definitely can. I can't answer that part. But what's your second question?
so I'm one of the lucky people that have roof attic access, but we travel 60 to 80% of the month. So what is the commitment for those that have access to the roof?
It's a great question. Actually, 0. Everything will all be done from the rooftop. You will not have to gain access to anybody's attics. The only time that will happen is after year 1, we do our attic inspections. But during this installation, we can do everything from the rooftop. They can suck everything out from hoses. We'll be able to remove plywood for them to be able to gain access to those locations, so you won't have to have nothing will be bothered for you guys from the interior portion. And then you have a third one.
Yes, so our microwave doesn't vent out, there's no vent, and I only heard about the venting for the dryer, the fans. Is there a mechanism that is being considered to have the microwaves also vented out? So
You
they're
mean
not
like
venting in?
those, you have a microwave above your stove, but those
Yes.
of us have vents. So you're saying that would there be any vent? Because there is no, mine's like not mine's ventless.
Correct.
Thing.
And that's been a common theme. They can do ducted or unducted microwave vents. And what that really means is they just turn it where it basically is now, it just escapes out into the attics or into the livable space. The only way that would be able to be done is to run a duct work up through, which goes through your floor, all the way up into, from the first floor up to the second floor, which is probably not possible because of where it's located to go into there. If it was designed that way, yes, 100%, that would have been something that would be added. And the size difference would go from 4 inches to 6 inches. The venting on that usually is a 6-inch diameter, or when these were built, actually they would use a 3 by 12 inch rectangle duct that would go through. When we were growing up, some of us, you open up that upper cabinet above the stove and you could see just a rectangle duct going through there. That would be how that would be
So
done.
can you explain how the steam and all this stuff from the stove goes into the attic and what that is?
On the attic space, oh, go ahead, Tom.
So what the microwaves are doing right now, that fan is just literally pushing air back into the space. So you can't have a duct, because if you go up, like in mine, it'd go right to the bedroom. So there's no space to put a ductwork.
So then, what about the bathroom downstairs?
The bathrooms are ducted,
Are they?
yes, but they're not necessarily attached.
Right. That could probably. I don't think they do anything.
Well, right, if they're not attached, they're not really venting.
And then what about that thing that's in the? Just I think all of them have it in the washer where the washer and dryer
Yes,
are. That thing, that
that's,
timer thing that's supposed to turn on
That's
something.
supposed to be a whole house fan,
Mm-hmm.
and those are timers, and I was kind of talking to you guys to get that ratio, but the windows have a small vent that you can open to allow fresh air into
No, I leave mine open.
place.
Yes, yeah.
Right, and then what I was told, and they're the experts, not me, but that fan is used to not only get that there, but to get the hot air out through
That's
the
just
dryer. Mine's in the washer dryer.
Yeah,
area.
mine's in the washer dryer.
But can you guys speak to that better? Is that correct? I don't want to give you correct.
It is, so
Okay.
so the bathroom fans downstairs, I want to first address that one.
Okay.
So each one, some of the units don't have those powder rooms there at the front, but a lot of the ones that does have a fan vent up on top of that little roof space.
Mhm.
So that will already exhaust out, so that'll finish that problem there. The kitchen vents, again, as Tom was saying, there's just nothing you can do about those, and that literally is just a fan. If it was there, they would turn the fan and it would go into that ductwork. They've been doing this for 30 years now with these microwaves with them venting into the kitchens. So that is the only thing that we cannot control, but the average person, the average household produces between 1 and 4 gallons of water per day. So that's irrelevant when it comes into how much moisture is getting into the air. And then as far as there was for the bathroom or so the dryer vents.
No, it's not the dryer vent. It's in the washer and dryer. There's a timer that's supposed to do something. I've never used it, but it's supposed to.
It's an exhaust fan. with the
Correct.
timer.
So basically, what that's designed for is when you're doing your laundry, you should turn that on because it's going to keep the moisture out of that enclosed area.
Right,
So-
but is it even working properly, or is it even vented properly? for it to
Well,
do
we
that?
will make sure ours is connected
Yeah.
to that.
It's like, that's
From the attic space up, we are responsible. Anything below that drywall is
Yeah.
going to be responsible for each individual home. But I hope that makes sense or
No,
clarifies.
I was just curious about that.
Okay.
I
They will be connected.
Yeah, they will be connected, yeah, 'cause
They
I
will
don't
be
care
connected.
now.
And to your point, as far as for the kitchen fan, if somebody has a unit that has their kitchen upstairs and it vents into the attic, we can connect that and vent it out of the roof. Now, this might not be the case here, but we do it in residential houses that are single story. We can vent those directly out the roof. So it just depends. I remember being in your unit, and I don't know if you have something above you or if it's just the roof or not. So you might, I know you have a
just have the
vaulted.
roof above.
Yeah, so you might,
You're in a
we might be
one-story?
able to vent that, and that would be a cost unto you,
Mhm.
separate, you just make a note,
So
for
the
anybody.
gutter guards, do all of the gutters really need them? I know the ones that are along the tree lines, because I'm in one of the ones, and in fact, there's actual stuff growing out of the gutter because they haven't been maintained. Those always get clogged up, but the ones on the other side don't necessarily really get clogged up. So wouldn't it be more, having it just along the tree lines where they really get clogged up versus doing the entire, depending on cost?
It's a great question, and I actually moved out here working for a national gutter protection company. And the one thing that I learned about gutter protection early on was the only way for it to be effective is to keep the water in, or let the water in and keep the debris out.
Mhm.
But it's not just the organic debris, not the stuff that's floating around, it's also the shingle granules. The first 6 months, imagine like a sugar cookie. You bake them, you pick them up, some of the sugar falls off. The same thing with the sugar, with the granules, the first 6 months is going to be when a granule comes off. But all the time, granules come off. It is what gives it the color and gives it the protection. Over time, the more granules get inside there, the harder it is to keep cleaning those gutters out, which also is how they get those smiles and frowns. So the more we can keep out of there, the more we can protect those. The second part of that, though, is also in just normal general maintenance. It's easier to blow something off than having to scoop everything out or blow it out and cause a mess as well. So there are pros and cons to them of having them in areas with no debris,
Mhm.
but I've learned Mother Nature is not prejudiced either. She blows wherever she wants the stuff to go, so it can fall anywhere it wants to. And pretty much every gutter I went into, and that was the one thing I did not take any of, which I apologize, I didn't really take any gutter pictures, because I just saw them all looking pretty much the same. And you can see where people were putting ladders up against them, they're dinged, they're dented, they're falling down. There's just a lot of different things that have happened. So even just as an example with the spike system, I put my ladder at the spike. So when I put my ladder up there, my 230 pounds is not bending the gutter. So it just makes it, and then the last part to that question is, the gutter protection will also help reinforce the gutter system to give it strength this way too.
Good.
So,
And it's a 5-year warranty with the gutter system, with the guard, and a 1-year without the
Correct.
guard.
And gutters are kind of independent of what we're doing. That's an ad. That could be done next year, it could be done in 5 years, it could be done whenever.
Mhm.
It was just something that was
Yeah.
there. And ultimately, that's your guys' discussion, but then cost will probably drive that. My opinion, it's better just to clean it, because you would clean, to say there was never gonna be any sediment, anything in those gutters, it's not true. But instead of cleaning your gutters 3-4 times a year, or something like that, to really keep them clean, you may have to do it once every 2 years. To take one of the screens off and wash them out. So they really do work, and you don't need to spend a fortune to get a good gutter guard, to get a decent gutter guard. I mean, you can have leaf guard or something like that come in and just be an exorbitant amount of money. You don't need to do that to just keep the debris out of your gutter. So it is a recommendation.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a part of this. It can be done next year, it can be done in 2 years or whatever, but it is a recommendation.
and to piggyback on that too, is the fact of just not only just the expensive screens, leaf guard, K-guard, leaf filter. They're great products overall, but there are great products out there that are not as expensive, that are just as effective. So that's the whole point. We're not putting on the most expensive thing. We're buying something we can buy from our supply hub company that is effective and will do the job right. Tom, you have a question?
So if, say, we decided to go with you guys, rather than wait for pricing to go up, would you have a place where we bought all the materials up front, or however that price point works, where you could store the excess, so we're not paying costs? Because you said twice a year, materials go up.
Yeah, I think it would all depend on if you say, all right, we're ready, we wanna do all
Yeah.
28 buildings.
Okay.
Then we're committed, and at that point, the cost increases. We would just keep them. We
Okay.
keep the price that way. If it was something that, here, we wanna spread this out over a year or something like that, that's where we can, hold the pricing. But if we get a commitment, we got a commitment, and we'll hold to that. And then we will get this project done as quickly as we can over the course, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's not that 12 months, but we wanna give ourselves that time. Because we're not gonna go hire people to get this thing done.
Got you. So you would honor whatever